Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
Late Night Unspun.
Ooh, that was good.
Yeah, I don't know if it came across. I don't know if my mic's working. I'm working from home tonight because we both filled in today at CKNW. I'm trying to get the tech to work. I don't know if it's going in here or there or where. But because I was thinking it'd be really nice to go really close to the mic, but we'll see. We'll see.
Actually, when you went closer to the mic, it sounded like it was coming from there. So cozy up. 1 month to the day, depending on when you're watching this, as of Thursday, March 24th, 1 month to the day since Russia began their war on Ukraine. And interesting, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, making a plea to the world to. I was rocking my Slava Ukraine sweatshirt all day. I had to take it off.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw some tweets about it.
You know what? The young woman that is doing that here is very motivated to just do something. She's making no money off them. If you see it on Twitter, highly recommend it. Very high quality. It's a great piece, and I've only seen a few people, but people are like, "Where'd you get that? I love that. Oh my God, you're so on it." I'm like, "No, it was on Twitter." You want to support? I'm like, "What can we do to support?" Because watching this is just so painful. It's just like, it's just, you can't look away, George, and yet you want to, but you can't.
No, I know. And I was talking to Peter Kalamis, a comedian, and they're doing a fundraiser next week on the 9th at the York Theatre. Bunch of comedians, obviously, that dilemma, you're doing comedy about Ukraine, but, he was very emotional about, this is...
do something. And Zelensky...
We just saw these images, and Zelensky's a comedian. So, it's total... that's what I said. You got there's a connection. There's a connection. I started watching his show last weekend on Netflix, his Zelensky's show. I've totally forgot what it's called, but it's all in Ukrainian, so it doesn't, but it's really actually quite good. I would recommend it.
What do you see happening in terms of, I was speaking with Richard from Macdonald Laurier Institute today about sort of his perspective of what he's watching happen. And, we're reading and listening and watching the narratives that are spun, right? UnSpun podcast. Here we are just like looking to figure out, to find the straight line. There's no crystal balls here. There's nobody who has an answer to this, but there is that, I don't know, perspective of like, where is the red line here?
Right? I know, because that was a conversation today at NATO. That's what they're all talking about. They're not willing to do peacekeeping, which is a euphemism for invade or whatever. And I think that's the problem. Peacekeeping, peacemaking. So they made that clear today, and then they talked about, the Secretary General talking about, bombs of, nuclear or dirty, just like, oh my God, just the fact that we're having this conversation, that this guy's going to drop nuclear bombs on Ukraine, and it's just brutal. So, but they're being very cautious. They don't want to go in there. And so, I think this is a battle. I had an interview about the guy about drones, and it's quite amazing what those drones and what impact they're having, all these Turkish drones that the Ukrainians are using. And it's easy to sneak in and put into the battle. And I don't know. It's just, we're just sitting back here watching this horror, and it's brutal.
Horror.
And
I got to say,
are kind of stuck.
But the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainians are, I think, surprising the world with their sense of self. Like Zelensky said, just as I was sort of reading up, waiting for you to get off the air, frankly, because I got off the air 3 hours before you. I mean, we're so deep in this, being on air all day. Zelensky was basically speaking out to NATO, saying, when this is over, never again tell us that our military isn't up to par, isn't up to the NATO standards. Because, I mean, look at what this, it is a country of 44 million people, but it's largely, the populace that are standing up. We've seen numerous videos now. It's amazing, George, what we're seeing, right? You don't need an embedded reporter to see what's happening on the ground there, because everybody's got a phone. Everybody's just, doing this with it. And the people, obviously, as a mother, I find it incredibly difficult to watch coverage of children. And it's so great that Canadians and children's hospitals in Canada are helping kids who obviously need medical help and support, but it's those that are caught in the crossfire explaining how they, watch their parents die needlessly. This is the thing and the Russian parents who have their young lads forced to go and fight a battle they don't, it's a lot.
I tweeted out last week, that one mom saying, please look at this picture of this boy. And it was just this kid, he was just like a little baby. I mean,
what can we do?
Younger than my boys. It was ridiculous.
Red Cross. The Red Cross is our best path. I mean, but what do we look at what Joe Biden and what Justin Trudeau, what our leaders there, we saw President Macron, we saw Boris Johnson. They're all there. They're all walking around and doing the thing. And what can they do? What can they do?
Yeah, they're just crossing your fingers and hoping the Ukrainians can win this battle. And, it's depending on which pundit you listen to. They're winning and they're losing. It's like, we'll get into this, but it's like housing in Vancouver. It's right. Like, what's the real story, or which one is which? But we're just basically going to have to watch and wait. Before
we get to the more local, let's go national, federal politics, because the CASA agreement, the supply and confidence agreement that the federal Liberals came to with the NDP basically going to prop up this government till 2025. And wow, watching the Conservatives' heads blow. I mean, some of the stuff that was said, it's like,
sucks to be
wow, really?
I mean, it gives them time with a new leader, I suppose, the Conservatives. And as soon as Trudeau feels like he can win the next election, he'll abandon it, just like John Horgan did to the Greens here. So, it's such a, it appears that the NDP will get a couple of things, pharmacare and dental. I bet they won't get dental. You already hear the dental community freaking out, saying, we don't know how we can handle that.
But for 12 and under, I mean, but starting somewhere, right? Because it's for kids 12 and under. And I can see that being a cost saver down the road in some ways. On the health front,
the price of dental will go skyrocket. The price of dental will skyrocket because you can't suddenly add dentists. That's a 7-year training. So the dentists that are in it will now have more patients, whether they're 12 or under. And so who's going to pay for that? Well, we all will. Taxpayers for the people who are getting it for free, and private users who pay, or businesses like me who pay into dental care. I'll have to pay higher premiums. That's how it's going to be paid for. Now, I'm not speaking against it, but this is a fact of life.
Yeah,
you can't just add a demand into something without
someone's got to pay.
Someone's got to pay, and somebody's got to be trained. So that means more schools for dentists and all that stuff. So it's, it has huge ramifications, and it will take years to implement, really. But
but we still don't have $10 a day childcare for real. So I mean,
and that's easy,
right? Well, tell the child care providers that it's easy, because they're like, no, it's not. We're not getting approved. Yeah. And then we got, so on the dental front, we got Bernie Sanders tweeting about Canadian politics. He tweeted about it today going, we should be doing this in the United States, whatever. Meanwhile, I'm speaking with the past president.
They can't even get health care done down there. Come on.
No. Canadian Medical Association's past president was on talking about the stress level of physicians and frontline healthcare workers, that 53% of physicians in Canada are looking to back off from their practice or leave, and learners, not just physicians, but also those coming into, I mean, you think it's hard to find a doctor now.
I know. And my doctor, I'm trying to think, he's been my doctor since I was 21, and pretty sure he was probably 38, 40 maybe when I started. So that makes him 80. And he's still my doctor, and I go there and I love him, but he's definitely not moving quite as fast. He's very fit, and he always likes to mock me and tell me how fit he is and how not fit I am.
Right.
And he pokes my stomach and says, "Well, there's like a little bit of cushion here that he doesn't have." Just say, hey, poke my stomach. See, that's what you want. But he's starting to shuffle around. But so I'm going, oh God, once he leaves, what am I going to do? It's my doctor for 35 years.
Yeah,
he knows everything about me and how I'm a hypochondriac. Every time I come in, he's like, "What did you Google now?"
Oh no, are you that guy?
Yes.
Wow. I'm speedy. I'm the
I
speedy
Google
person.
stuff.
I go in, I don't Google ever. Don't get nobody Google, nobody writes in the good stuff on Google about medical stuff. That's a
I
way
go
to
to the
get
credible
super
sites,
scared.
credible scientific
Okay.
sites.
Okay. So you're like Mayo Clinic guy. I think I have extra, and the doctor's like, you got the flu, is what you have.
What's this spot? He says, you're
Yes.
old. Shut
Oh,
up.
hey. Speaking of physicians, did you see these?
Oh yeah, I got mine. Yep. Well,
I
yeah.
went,
Oh, those are the ones
these,
because you're so young, you got them.
well,
Under
18
30?
plus now, 18 plus. You go to your
Nice.
pharmacy. So I got 5 for me and I got 5 for Brian
And they're
because I could
free?
pick up for Brian. They're free. You walk into the pharmacy, you just go to the pharmacy and go, do you have any rapid tests? And they go, yes, we do. And you just show your health card. Here's one for you with your health card. And you say, I'd also like to pick up for fill in the blank if you want to pick it up for your over 18s period. Doesn't even need to be a family member. You have to have their health number, their full name, and their birth date. And every 28 days, you can pick up a 5-pack.
Cool.
Yeah, it was super easy. So
The fun we have in COVID land. So excited to pick up the things I jam up my nose.
I have never had a test. I've never had a COVID test.
Oh, really? Oh my God. Because we talked about that. I was in England at Christmas. We got there, early December, and everywhere we went, we had to get it done before, we went anywhere. So they were 3 months behind, as per usual here in Canada to England.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to, before we get to BC, let's stop in Alberta because I was watching the CBC. CBC had an exclusive. Jason Kenney there was leaked audio of him speaking to his caucus. He had a caucus meeting behind closed doors, an in-camera meeting. Somebody leaked audio. Like, who's sitting there recording that? But cool. Apparently, no. Apparently, Jason Kenney was explaining how he was going to throw his hands up and leave politics or leave the party, leave his role back late last year in December when things got very hard for him. Obviously, he's had some roller coaster there, Premier Kenney. But he said he stayed. You want to know why he stayed? To hold off the extremists in the party.
Well, Canada, we look to America and, they look at us and we go, our conservative party would be their Democrats, right? So in Alberta,
our conservative party would be their Democrats? No, Republicans.
No, in what we believe in as a people, right? So you sort of think about Canadians comparatively. Okay. I mean, as far as because they think we're all left wing here in Canada, but we look at Alberta, we look at like they're so much more American in a lot of ways, so much more conservative, and so their extreme party, their extremists are really extreme compared to, say, other parts of Canada, I think. But so, I mean, it's bad that his caucus leaked that. That's really, that's the end of your,
that's the end of your
days. That's the end of your days coming. The end is nigh, Jason Kenney, when your caucus is doing that. But, he kind of is right. I mean, there is that challenge to keep Gordon Campbell did a really good job here in BC with the Liberals. He managed to, for 11 years or 15 years, really, as in opposition, to keep the party together. And Christy Clark managed to, but then she lost an election, and now they're down to the bare minimum of people. So, it's not easy, but when your caucus betrays you, that means that's not good.
Days are numbered. You always say the pendulum swings widely, right? Widely, back and forth. And we're seeing that pendulum swing for the Conservative Party right now as we were talking about the CASA agreement. I mean, Candice Bergen, the interim federal conservative leader, and she was like, this is a gift for Vladimir Putin. It's like, oh God, that's unhelpful. That is unhelpful. Even if you don't agree with this agreement,
don't say that.
I mean, it feels. Let's go to BC now. There is, depending on when you're watching this, there's the coming relief, they say, for, what is it? Premier John Horgan and Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth will announce details on supporting drivers due to high gas prices. There's an announcement. Mike Farnworth, responsible for ICBC having the ability to directly rebate drivers. That's your prediction here?
I'm going to put on my prediction hat.
Okay, there it is. That was a good move.
Thanks. Because when people hear this, they'll know the truth. We're guessing. I think it's ICBC, but because the beauty of using ICBC money is it's contained and it's not an ongoing thing. If you give the PST away or whatever, you're stuck forever.
Right.
Here's a check for $500. You're welcome, drivers. But they have to do something. People are not happy. They have to give something back to the drivers. It's I drive nowhere really, but it's costing me probably an extra $50 to $100 a month, and I don't go anywhere. I mean, I'm just living in Vancouver, driving my minivan, my 2003 Toyota Sienna. Yeah,
That's the
the dad
worst
van.
vehicle. It's a
The
very
dad
bad
van.
dad van. It's a bad dad
It's
van.
getting a bit old. Pierce, I don't even know where it is right now. Pierce took it for his band. He's taken it.
It works good for the band, I
The
gotta
band
say.
van. It's gone from the dad van to the band van.
I like it.
Anyways, but it's for me. It's at 50, $100 extra if you're commuting 2 hours a day. We're talking
That doesn't
thousands of
help,
dollars.
but that also doesn't help with the inflated price of goods that are associated, those prices associated with the cost of fuel, right? So while
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
driver, I'm like,
good
sure, give
point.
me some money back. That's great. But what about the
Mm-hmm.
cost of the hothouse tomato that has grown just over there, but
Mm-hmm.
for some reason is 4 times more expensive because the trucks and the cost of the transportation, or the cost of growing the goods, even when they're here, even when they're local. I mean, I can't wait to get to growing season, but it's
So your argument
ridiculously.
might be, although I'm not sure how administratively this would work, is with that $1.7 billion they have, and they'll probably get another $1 billion this year from the ICBC. That should maybe be a family cashback to families, because they can't go and you can give the money to trucking, but if you just give everybody $500, or whatever the number, I don't know math on it, but even $100.
If you were
Um,
premier, if you were
yeah,
premier,
so,
everybody,
yeah,
boom.
million people, $100. There you go.
That's
That's
funny.
one way then to deal with that, because
Yeah.
the basket of goods, whether gas or apples or whatever, are going up big time, 5 to 7%.
They said
Which
groceries per year for the average family are going up $900.
yeah, I saw that.
That's a
That's
lot.
family of four. Yeah.
That
Oh
is a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Guess what? We're not having anymore meat.
Right. Welcome to lentil land.
Yeah.
And
Welcome
not a
to
bad thing.
beans, beans,
Beans,
beans. The
beans,
more
beans,
you eat.
beans. The more you toot. Oh, that was my stepdad's favorite line. And his name is
Yes.
Bruce Bean, by the way, so that's why he got away with
No.
that.
Perfect.
Let's talk about union negotiation.
Yeah.
Another thing
Well.
that comes with, when a deal goes sideways, or when there's trying to
Right.
be that negotiation to increase the salaries, but the ongoing price of that increase is so exponential that one-time bonus is quite popular, has worked in the past, but
Mhm.
the NDP, the provincial NDP, really having some struggles.
And any employer is really, for that matter, with rate of inflation at 7% potentially at the end of this year. You blanked out there for a minute.
Say that again, because you blanked out here. I don't know
Yeah.
if it'll be on your final record.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say?
So, it's interesting. The NDP, they're a left-wing government, and they're the ones negotiating. They're having to be hard, A's to this. Trying not to get an E rating here, to negotiate. But it's the ultimate question. I always have this, and it's related to anything that government does. And I've talked about it mostly related to foster care and social housing. That why are things not tied to the rate of inflation? Why? Why are we not just saying this is if you're doing government, tie it to the rate of inflation. Now it can be a delay of a year, so that because inflation can fluctuate. So you say, okay, well, if rate of inflation continues or whatever. I mean, I just think that why do we have to be so strict about these things and negotiate this way? Of course, unions have it's not just wages they get; they get a whole bunch of other things, but it's always like, why is this so unpredictably predictable? It's like rate of inflation 7.5%. Of course, you're going to want to. I argued when I was in council when the rate of inflation was 1%, and I was against saying, why are we giving raises of 2 to 3%? It doesn't make any sense. It's twice the rate of inflation. We should be trying for pretty much zero at this point, because in the future, guess what the rate of inflation is going to be? More. And that's when we're going to have to really dig deep as a city or as taxpayers. And so you want to kind of keep it under check when things are good, like anything. Like
anything.
like save when times are good, and then so you have the cash when times are bad.
But then you got to cut back on your kombucha. You got to cut back
Oh
on
my
your
God.
gelato.
I can't believe I didn't catch that. I was reading this City of Vancouver's financial documents, and I got them late. And Daily Hive, I think, and City TV picked up this story. They found out that the city spent was it $39,000 with a kombucha company.
Oh yeah, kombucha was 40,000, gelato was 50,000, and coffee was 49. So it was less. Why? There was more gelato than coffee. And what about the miscellaneous Amazon expenditures of $188,000? Miscellaneous. There's no line item for what they ordered from Amazon. It just says Amazon.
It's probably office supplies, but they should have printed
$1.5 million. $1.5 million in office supplies.
And there was something in dry cleaning, also quite a high one too. I thought was interesting. I'm trying to think what it's getting dry clean. I mean, the park board. I mean, who, like the workers on the street get their things dry cleaned?
I need to pay for my own dry cleaning.
Yes,
at my job.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, but how is this? How 2021? By the way, most city staff were working from home. So who was drinking this kombucha? I don't even like kombucha. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan.
Who's
it's like
eating?
Bubble tea.
Who's totally with you on that? I don't like either of those things. I 100% agree with you. $50,000 in gelato when everybody was working from home. What?
It's crazy. I don't remember anything like that ever coming up when I was there. It's almost like the auditor was like, "Oh, I'm going to put this in the report." For fun. Wow. Really make this council look bad, like they didn't look bad before. I mean, are you in control at all? You take $50,000 here, $50,000 there, you get to a couple million pretty fast. If not tens or 20 or 30 million, $7.5 million is 1% in tax of your taxes. So if you can find, it's like $7.5 million, you can reduce taxes by 1%.
Okay, so I'm going to make your head spin again.
Oh, God.
Because I know. Because, where municipal and provincial governments are merging right now is this UBCM report about affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the confusion that it has sparked.
Yes. Okay, I was on a debate yesterday online. Like I saw Francis Beulah tweeting out this thing from the UBCM report saying there's no housing problem, except the report itself was contradictory. So that's great. There's like one point saying it's not, and then the end is saying, but it is. So is it or it isn't? And then of course I was at a breakfast yesterday at Buildex conference, and there was the data they were showing was there's minimum right now we need to be building 28,000 units per year in the region to deal with the population growth that's already happening. And we're not even close to that. So what? You got Colleen Hardwick on City Council of Vancouver saying, running on that, supply is enough. We've got enough supply. I know that I can tell you from my first person experience with, at least my sons, for like finding an apartment is not only hard, it's expensive. What the
Very expensive. And if you want to build something, if you want to build a suite or a coach house, or even you've bought a piece of property and you want to build a multi-unit that you're going to live in part of and have your son live in the other part and rent out the other part, that's a 5 to 7 year program. I mean, the fact that it takes so long, and the entire time you have to pay all of the property taxes, the empty homes tax. Did you hear that story?
That's been very successful.
Trying to get something built, and they're like, nope, you have to wait for your permitting. But in the meantime, you need to pay all of this stuff. Yeah, it's just wow. So when I talked to David Eby, Attorney General and Minister in charge of Housing, David Eby, today on filling in for Jill Bennett, he was talking, he's like, he appreciated the fact that UBCM gave him the heads up on this report that they were releasing, but it made his head spin because he's like, up until this moment, it's been all about supply and demand, and there's not enough supply. And the issue is, a 5-day hearing on a building above the new subway line on West Broadway because there's going to be shadows. I mean, are you kidding me? And
then some of these candidates running for mayor are making these proclamations about, being able to do things in 3 days, 3 months, and 3 years, or whatever this, you got to be careful because
what you promise.
Bureaucracy is bureaucracy. And I think at the end of the day, it's really about saving some money and looking at your staffing levels, but you can't turn that over overnight. You can't suddenly tell staff they have to push things through faster But
Yeah.
but when you have a report from UBCM that's potentially a slap in the face to communities who are really working hard to try and create more volume. The argument I always had, and okay, you can talk about the empty homes tax, which I voted against because I said it's not going to work. It's not going to achieve the goals you want to achieve. It's just going to make people sell their homes, and then that doesn't go into the rental thing. I said the premise is BS. These empty homes are going to go into the rental pool. They don't. I believe the argument but they would not go with the. So you're talking about supply. Oh no, this isn't about supply and demand. I'm like, yes, it is. But anyways, so this argument this is going to create more rental housing was ill-founded, and I couldn't support it. And the bureaucracy behind it. They're spending millions a year on staffing when that staffing could have gone over to other departments, or to fix the problem. Or guess what? Or I always argued the supply issues. I said, if we know that 10% of the homes are empty, then, and it has been that way based on the data that was provided when I was on council for years and years, you can say, oh, we got to change that. We got to focus on that 10%. We got to get that down to 5%. We're going to put all our money and all our energy into getting that down to 5%, as opposed to saying, let's put all our energy and time on the 90% of people of the units that are full. And what are those units? Let's put our energy on building more of those as opposed to the 10% that are empty. We don't need more of those. We need more of these over here. Let's put our energy. But instead, the council of the day and the current one are so focused on the number that is empty as opposed to the numbers that are full. It's nonsense. It's your head is in the wrong place, and it's just politics. It's because it looks good, like you care about whatever foreign investment. Yeah, empty homes bad. Instead of saying
parking your money. That was what Andy Yan was saying when I interviewed SFU city plan, who contributed to the UBCM
SFU,
report. Yeah, from SFU, and he was speaking to that pretty much what you were just explaining there in terms of, it should parking your money in real estate. You have to pay for parking. You have to pay for parking. And David Eby, the Attorney General and Minister of Housing, said what he's looking at is the short-term rentals that are making it so your son can't find a place, because it's much more lucrative to keep it empty for part of the month and flip it around to VRBO or Airbnb or whatever, and the city can't track that, and how they're trying to do that. It's like herding cats here. It's just like herding cats.
The supply and game works on every single. We live in a market economy, and I don't know how much more clear. If everybody was allowed to do whatever they want, then it's fine. Because guess what? If Airbnb sells out, or if there's too much supply of Airbnbs, guess what happens? They don't rent them, and they go, "Oh, this is a waste of my time, and I'm not getting anybody renting my Airbnb. I might as well rent it by the month because there's too many Airbnbs." As instead, what we've done in Vancouver, we've restricted Airbnbs for the reason because we want more rentals in the pool, which hasn't worked.
No.
Now is what happened is hotel rooms are now $700 a night in Vancouver because we haven't built a hotel in this city in my lifetime.
And we're closing them left, right, and center.
We're closing and turning into housing
like crazy. Yeah,
instead of
because Airbnb is
building housing. Yeah, exactly.
Again,
so it's like this. It's supply and demand work on every single level, and you can't just take a little bit here and a little bit there, do this and here. Anyways, it just drives me crazy. But of course, I get lambasted for being, oh, you hate poor people, or you love foreign investment. You want to say no.
None of those things.
It's about doing the math and focusing on the right things that work, and not focusing all the things that you won't be effective, but you're just doing it for spin.
Yeah, you got to unspin it. I'm going to end on a positive note because we're almost out of time here.
Yes.
We all love Terry Mooring, who has championed the cause of public school teachers and schools and looking out for families and kids for a long time. But the last 2 years in particular, Terry Mooring has been tireless in her want to keep schools in BC safe. I have great respect for her. Every single time I've called her,
and as
she's
a gray
answered
hair
the
person,
call.
Impressive. Yeah. I gotta work on my grays to
you do. Really, you got to up your game. You got to get those bangs.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she does. So she is leaving after fulfilling her full term as president of the BC Teachers Federation. And she is moving on to her next chapter. Bravo, Terry Mooring. Just want to get that in there. So the person that's taking over is the subject of my column at the Orca.ca.
Okay.
It's not your typical middle. I'm not really looking for middle, other than what I'm doing is saying, this is who the new BCTF president is, who was the vice president for under Terry and was the second VP under Glenn Hansman before Terry. He has all kinds of experience. His name is Clint Johnston. But the funny part is he's actually my kid's really good friend's dad. So when I met Clint, I had no idea who he was. I still don't really care who he is because he's that kind of good guy. It's kind of like, you know, when you meet somebody and you just like who they are. So I tell you a little bit about, I know you haven't read the column this week because you've been so busy, but have a read of it because Clint is good people. And this particular role is made for him because what he has been is the mediator and moderator and negotiator at the table for not just the BCTF, but also the Canadian Teachers Federation. He's the VP there as well. Hardworking individual, was a teacher in Chilliwack. He knows the lay of the land. He knows some of the most difficult districts to deal with. And he is a champion of Indigenous studies and inclusion and LGBTQ2+. He is informed. Never get in a debate with Clint. I'll put it that way. He'll win. He'll win.
Probably. I can't guarantee that won't happen. As a parent and as a person who's in the media, I am sure we will disagree on something. But I bet he will. But it's good to hear that there's somebody who actually cares because you and I have kids in the system. We want people who care, and whether you're part of the union or part of I don't care. I just want you to care about my kids and their education, please. Thanks very much.
100%. And we also want people to follow you on Twitter, and it's George
_ we forgot last week, Affleck.
We did. That's why I'm making sure we get it in. I was like, oh my God, it was the first time in 163 episodes that we forgot to say at George _ Affleck on Twitter. I'm at Jody Vance on Twitter. Of course, you sign up for the Fin at the Orca.ca so you never miss a story about BC politics and the movers and shakers and what happens in this town. You're the mover, I'm the shaker, or I'm the mover. Anyway, say goodbye, George.
I'm going late night. It's getting dark in here. Bye-bye.